Welcome to the Here and Now show. I am your host, Lavonda Ray. Hey, what's going on here? And a little technical with the internet. Yeah, thank you. And if you tuned into my show before, you know that the Here and Now show is a show where I have created real life events and turned them into a positive living. If you have any questions or any comments, feel free to leave it in the comments box because all voices matter. And with that being said, let's start the show. I'm excited. Before we start the show, I just want to say today was hot outside in the Midwest. You guys know that's where I'm coming from, the city where you come in and show out. You got to love your city. Hello, somebody. Right now in the Midwest, the weather, oh my gosh, it is, oh, what's going on here? The weather, it is it's humid, it's hot, but it's good. I'm glad to be here. So, with that being said, you guys, like I said, I'm coming from the Midwest. We coming to show out, love your city. We're going to dive into today's topic. But before we do that, if you guys know me, like I think you do, you guys know that I love jazz music. And so, with that being said, we're gonna play a little jazz music before I get back into it, and then we'll get started. So I have to get set up, guys. Probably should have done that a little bit earlier. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back. Oh my gosh, we're having a lot of technical difficulties this evening, but excuse me, I am not perfect. Hey, thank you for tuning in. Hello, how are you? Well, welcome back. It's your girl. I'm back today on the Here and Now show. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad you guys are here. I feel blessed. You should feel blessed too. Hello, somebody. It is Tuesday. Tuesday. Hello from Russia. Hey, glad to have you aboard. Looks like we all made it. We woke up this morning. We're here. Life is great, and I'm feeling great. So today's comment. Hey, how you doing? I acknowledge everybody. Hello, glad to have you aboard. Today I am talking about a conversation that some people don't like talking about. They like to avoid, kind of like when you go shopping and you're trying to avoid looking at your banking account after you went on the shopping spree. Yeah, I'm talking about your shadow. Now, wait, now, before anyone starts looking behind them or gonna send me a message, I'm not talking about the shadow on the sidewalk. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the part of yourself that we pretend don't exist. I'm talking about that insecurity, that jealousy, that anger, and that I need validation. Or that voice that says to me, girl, post another selfish selfie. You only got 12 likes. And that ego, man, I'm talking to you guys, that ego that says, I don't need directions. Sir, my love, we have been lost for 45 minutes. At this point, your GPS is praying for you. So today I'm talking about self awareness and facing your own shadow. Because the truth is, the shadow isn't your enemy. The shadow is simple. It's the version of yourself that you've been refusing to meet, right? It's that version. And the funny thing about that is the more you run from that, the faster to run to you. So grab your coffee, grab your tea or a protein shake, your emotional snacks. My emotional snack is popcorn. Hello, somebody. So let's get fun and let's get uncomfortable together. you know, because growth isn't finding growth you're not going to find in your comfort zone, right? Growth is found when you stop pointing fingers at everyone else and start looking in the mirror. So I'm gonna take a few seconds for a little bit of jazz, and then we could get into it, you guys, because I got a few things I gotta do. So I don't want you guys to get too bored. So we're gonna take like less than, I don't know, 10 seconds of a little jazz, and then we're gonna dive into it. And I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, wonderful afternoon. It is extremely hot. So let's get a little jazz in before we get started. Jazz sets the stage for me. You know, it feels good. It feels happy. You know, and I'm that. I'm good. I'm happy. Just a few moments, guys. Just a little bit of time. That's right. Welcome back. Welcome back. So now you guys are probably like wondering, what is the shadow? Most people think, most people think they're self-aware, and they might tell you, I know exactly who I am. But do you really? Like, do you really know who you are? Because I wonder if I asked your best friend, or if I asked a coworker, or if I asked your children, do you think that, well, maybe not your ex, but if I asked your children or someone at your job, a coworker, or your best friends, I think the answers might be different. You think? Because self awareness, it isn't knowing your favorite color. It is understanding why we react the way that we do, you know, why certain people trigger you, certain people can trigger you, and some people might like, well, what do you mean? I mean that maybe someone that you were involved with truly hurt you, and then hearing that name triggers you. And so that's the thing, when you're free from those triggers, those certain things won't bother you. But just seeing them, I was getting, that's one thing about the library, it's so hot in here, you would think there's air in here, you know but just seeing that trigger, if you're able to, if you're unhealed, it will be a trigger to you. But once you heal from those things, it would no longer be a trigger to you, you know? And why is it that criticism sometimes feels personal, like a personal attack? Meaning, sometimes it's hard to accept criticism without feeling judged at the same time, because in some cases, they very well may be judging you. So if you can't accept that they're going to judge you regardless of what you do, accept that and carry on, because you can do this, Or there was one question that was asking me, and it was like, why do I keep dating the same person with a different face? And I'm thinking, can we talk about this for a minute? If you don't know what I mean, or if you don't know what they meant when they said, why does it feel like I keep dating the same person but different faces? If you don't know what that means, I'll tell you what I think it means. Meaning, for instance, you left one relationship that was toxic, it wasn't healthy, but then you started dating people, someone else, and they had that same personality, just a different face. So it's like, if you're not choosing, it's like you're not choosing a partner. It's like you're almost in a secrecy, different name, different city, same effect. You know what I mean? Same drama, different city, same drama, same red flags, the same emotion. So that's what that means to me when they ask me, well, why do I keep dating, the same person, but I mean, a different person with the same face, because you're dating people with the same personalities of what made you unhappy. So it's like, are you choosing the date? Because now it's more like you're not choosing a partner, you're choosing to be in sequences. Like I said, different cities, same drama. But the shadow contains all things that we don't want to admit. That's what the shadow is. But whatever you refuse to face, it can't control you. That's why people can be successful and still be miserable. You could be rich and still be insecure. You could be beautiful as can be, and still be unhappy. You can be popular and still be lonely because you can't heal what you don't acknowledge. So if you don't acknowledge your pain, you can't heal from the pain. So that's what self awareness is stepping on, right? You have to acknowledge that. And sometimes and if this will help, I'm not a psychiatrist, therapist, or doctor of any kind. I'm just a person that's been through ups and downs in life, and I have belief that I want you guys and maybe that we can be alike and talk about how we all feel together and manifest something more beautiful than words. Write this down if you like. The part of yourself you refuse to face becomes a part of your life that keeps repeating. So if you refuse to face it, it's going to keep repeating to you in parts of your life. And I'll say that again. The lesson will keep showing up until you finally learn from it. So if there's something that you're continuing to do and it continues to repeat itself, one is the lesson, and it keeps showing up until you do something with that lesson. And finally, when you learn from that lesson, that's how your shadow no longer becomes your enemy. How your shadow, now then you might ask, how does your shadow show up? Well, your shadow doesn't knock on your front door. It doesn't. Your shadow, it sneaks in it sneaks in disguise. Sometimes it shows up in judgments. You ever notice the things that annoys you the most about others? Sometimes it isn't the things that you are fighting in yourself. Sometimes it is not the person that you know, but it's you. Sometimes it is ourselves. The person who constantly talks, maybe you are afraid to speak. The conflict person, maybe secretly they are fighting confidence and you just don't know their battles. You know, because the successful person, they're successful, but there still be some things that they're still facing. It can be that way. Dreams can, so ouch, I know that feeling, and I'll say that again. Sometimes it's like fighting in yourself to find that self-awareness. And sometimes you have to constantly do this because you have to be aware of your self-awareness. The shadow also shows up through when you're overexhausted. Oh, it can show up through so much parts in your life. You know, if someone, for instance, this is the shadow talking. Let's say someone forgets to text you back, and now it's ruined your whole day. You know, not because again, now your whole day is ruined because someone did not text you back. And I'm not about to, you know, text, but sometimes that feeling could come from feeling abandoned. So they feel like, oh my God, you didn't text me back the whole day. Now you have ruined my day because I feel like you abandoned me. And really not. And if circumstances destroy you, it might not be the feedback. Do you understand? It might not be the feedback. It might be about your self worth because you ever react to someone telling you something and then you listen and you're like, maybe I shouldn't have react that way. The way a person reacts tells a story. The questions that you are listening to, it all tells a story. You know, the cost of avoiding your shadow. Why? Avoiding your shadow can be very expensive, not financially, not emotionally, but spiritually, mentally, and then when you're not ready to face your shadows, sometimes you put that energy in proving to people, or you're putting energy in performing, or you're putting energy in trying to be perfect. And guess what? None of us is perfect. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. None of us, not even the influencers, not the motivational speakers. Nobody is perfect, but the strongest people are the ones that are not without flaws. you know there are there are ones who's willing. They are the strongest people with the strength are the ones that is willing to face them. And that takes a lot of courage, saying things like, I was wrong, I was insecure, and I was jealous, and I was scared. That those words alone, that takes strength to say I was that way. You know, that I did cry. A phone call, it is okay. And so strength takes strength for me to say that, hey, I did this and I've recognized it. And sometimes healing begins at the moment you stop using excuses. The moment excuses end, your healing can begin. That should be on the t-shirt. That right there, that quote. I'll say it again. Healing begins the moment you stop excusing and stop making excuses. Right there. Healing begins the moment your excuses end. Yeah, I said that should be on the t-shirt. I should put that on the bumper. Hello, somebody. And I have a question for my favorite people. This is a question that, again, people ask me these questions, then I save them for our show. So the first question was, how do you know if you are avoiding your shadow? If a problem keeps showing up in different situations, different people, same outcome, different job, same frustration, different relationships, same heartbreak. The thing about that is that patterns reveal what denial hides. Okay, so that's how you know. Question two. Can men benefit from shadow work too? Absolutely. Men are human beings too. They have feelings. Men, yes, they absolutely can. Men and some men, not all men, but some men, they are taught to hide their emotions, to bury your emotions. And then when they do that, just because you hide them or you bury them, it doesn't mean that their emotions disappeared. They just hid them. And once they are hiding their emotion, they become angry, they become stressed, they become distant, and maybe even isolate themselves because guess what? Men are human too. Men hurt too. Strength isn't suppressing your emotions, okay? Strength is understanding them. Hello, somebody. Another question was, what if I don't like what I discovered? What if I don't like what I discovered? Um, and feel free to answer these at any time. The box is always open. A question to that is, what do I do if I don't like what I discover? Well, most people don't like what they see at first, you know. But awareness isn't punishment. It's not. It's freedom. It is that you can change. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. So it's freedom. Once you discover, you probably won't like it at first, but you will have that taste of that freedom that you felt because it's not a punishment. you know and you can't change anything if you don't acknowledge it. Another question was, can self-awareness improve relationships? Without question, yes. I'll read that again. Can self-awareness improve relationship? Without a question. When you know your triggers, when you know your wounds and you know your patterns, you you stop making everyone else responsible for them. That's maturity right there. That is maturity right there. So another question was, thank you guys for all these questions, is what's the one thing I can do today to change? Okay. Well, I can give you a side, the one thing that I think you could do is ask yourself what keeps upsetting you. And then ask yourself, what is it teaching me? Because that very question can change your life. Those two questions, right? And here's another way how you can start shadow work, okay? Step one, get honest with yourself. Step two, stop blaming everyone else. Step three, journal if you have to. I do that. It works for me. Be curious instead of judgmental. You know, step five, give yourself grace while still staying accountable. Right? Give yourself grace, but still being accountable for the things that you have done. Growth isn't about becoming someone else, right? It's about becoming more and more who you are meant to be. That's what it's about, to become more and more who you are truly meant to be on this earth. But of course, you guys know every once in a while I have my stories. So I have a quick two stories that I want to share before I get off air. Hey, how you doing? I'm glad you're in here today. Um, and so, they're just funny stories that are relatable. What I was discussing today, and I call this the church lady and the blessed parking lot. Okay, so like I said, this is a quick story, quick true story, quick funny story, but also a learning story. Let me tell y'all, okay, how my shadow showed up on the Sunday morning. Ooh, Sunday morning, not all things, right? It showed up. But I was running late for church, Now, when I say late, I mean the type of late where you're putting on mascara in the window, in the mirror, and while you're putting it on, you're praying, like, oh my God. Or the kind of late where I'm like, okay, God, you know my heart. So I was running late, I'm getting in my car, I walk out the door that I forgot my purse. So I go back in the house to grab my purse. So I get in my car and I'm driving to church. And I made it. I made it. I'm driving there. I pull into the church parking lot. I'm like, okay, it's getting better. Started off a little rocky, but okay, I'm late and I don't like walking in the church late. Just a tad bit late. And so as I'm in the church parking lot, oh my God, there's one spot left. Now, mind you, when I say one spot, I mean like one spot near the door. All the other spots are like way, way in the parking back, like all in the back. So um, I see the parking spot. The parking lot sees me. The parking spot sees me. I lock eyes with my parking lot. I think me and that parking space had a had a spiritual connection. So I'm like, yes, I'm driving forward. I'm thinking like, thank you, Jesus. Then out of nowhere, just out of the blue, this sweet little old church lady swoops in and takes my spot. Oh my God. And let me see you guys something. Oh, Jesus, take the wheel. It wasn't a system. It wasn't Sister Mary or the lady who says, "Oh, hugs everybody every Sunday." No, no, not the one that hugs everybody every Sunday. Or it was not the lady that says, "God bless you and your family." Oh, no, it was she stole my blessings. This is what I'm thinking, right? I'm like, oh, she just stole my blessing. At least that's what I told myself. Okay. So now, mind you, I'm on my way to worship, supposed to be praising, being grateful, being holy. See, my shadow was in the driver's seat when this incident was going on, right? She got out the car, and she's smiling, and she's waving, and she's happy. Meanwhile, I'm in my head creating a whole service thing, thinking things like "Thou shalt not steal other people's parking." Right? This is my head. And finally, I found a spot. Thank you, Lord. Way in the back. Okay, way in the way in the back. And I'm walking and I'm huffing, and I'm griping, puffing, and and as I'm griping and I'm puffing and I'm like, oh, she took my parking. Mm, oh, right. And I hear this voice in my head, right? And the voice says, in a very quiet voice, very meek and quiet, and it says, "Why are you upset?" And I thought, because she took my parking, right? And then the voice repeated and said, huh, why are you really upset? Why are you really upset, right? And there's when the shadow became my reality because I wasn't upset about the parking spot. I was mad because I was rushing and I felt rushed. I was stressed for being late and I was overwhelmed and completely out of control. The parking spot was just the excuse that I used. But by the time I got inside the church, hello, somebody, I was laughing at myself so hard. I was laughing so hard, y'all I almost missed the first song, right? And because nothing will expose your shadow more faster than a church parking lot, baby. One minute I'm saying, thank you, Lord. And the next minute I'm negotiating forgiveness in my head. And if you've never had an argument inside your head with a complete stranger before service, well, congratulations, baby. You are more spiritual than me. But that it worked out great. Like, I wasn't even mad at her. I was mad at one thing, and that just was a piece of the pie. That was just my excuse to say this is what made me mad because she took my parking. But it wasn't about the parking. It was the events that took place before I even got into the church. So, hello, somebody. It was a good service. I was happy. It was great. So, man, I have another story. At the beginning, I was telling this story, but I didn't get in deep into it. So, no disrespect. True moment, guys. Another funny story I have. I'm sorry, I have a lot of them, and I like to share them with my friends. But so, anyways, I knew this guy. He's a good friend of mine. I'm not gonna say his name because I love to live, and I don't mean he's going to club and choke a girl up or beat me up. But he doesn't like this story. And given the fact that he's a very, very good friend of mine, we've been friends for decades. Those are the good friends that you've had for years at a time. You go back and be like, oh, that was my best friend. We had all this fun together. Memories of friendship. But this was a good friend of mine, however. Anywho, so we decided that we were going to go on a trip. We both like casinos. We were going to go farther than our city and go to this casino that's like 2 states over. Whatever, it's fun. If you can do it, enjoy your freaking life. If you can do it, enjoy your life. Like if you got the money and the time and the motivation to go out and have some fun and to do a spontaneous highway trip, do it. Anyways, my friend, he absolutely refuses to use the GPS. Like, he refused to use the GPS for directions. I don't know. This man believes that he has possessed some ancient navigating power. Like, I don't know where he thought this came from. I mean, anyways, whatever. So we're driving, and when I tell you we are completely lost, I don't mean just a little lost. I mean completely freaking lost. Like the lost where you're in a movie and you make that wrong turn. Oh my God. I remember sitting there and I was moments for panicking. I'm like, we're getting deeper and deeper off the way it looks. There's no cars here. We're the only car. Read the GPS. Oh my gosh, I was panicking. I felt like I was in a movie, like a true life movie. Like, oh my gosh, we made the wrong turn. Something's going to happen. Meanwhile, the GPS is saying turn left. Now, my friend, he turned right. So now I'm thinking, meanwhile, is my friend don't know how to do directions? Of course, me being who I am, I asked my friend, do we not know left from right? And he says, yeah, I know left from right. Well, it doesn't appear to be that you know left or from your right because it just said turn left and you turn right. So I'm sitting there, and then meanwhile, the GPS it recalculates, and now we're driving. I'm like, okay, he's gonna listen this time. The GPS said, hey, turn right. Guess where he turned? He turned left. At this point, I know that the GPS, they're not humans and they don't have feelings. Technology does not have any feelings. But I tell you what, that GPS has some type of feelings going on because it was just going crazy. I promise you. Go left, relocating, go right. I feel like the GPS wanted to say, what the hell are you doing? Listen to me. Like the GPS can freaking see the earth. Like it can see into space. But however, we got lost. And after 45 minutes of being deeper lost, finally I said, sir, friend, we need to let the GPS figure us up out of here. But the problem wasn't the GPS. The problem was his ego. His ego had gotten away. Um, and then I realized that we do that a lot in life. At least I do. Life gives you directions, and people give you feedback. Life gives you directions. People give us feedback. Opportunities show up, and our shadow says, "Nope, I know better." then we end up exhausted, we end up frustrated, and somehow blame the GPS. And sometimes the shadow isn't confused, okay? Sometimes it's the pride of the person wearing the sunglasses, you know? So um, sometimes, refusing to see the things that is right before us. I had an issue with my pride for years, and I still work on that because we know that pride and ego are one of the hardest things to break when your pride has been shocked. It's like, I don't know if you can come back from that because you broke my pride. Now I don't want to look at you. But with that being said, I appreciate you guys for coming on, tuning in with me today. Every listener, I want to say hello, 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 and thank you. I hope you guys are blessed. But before I leave today, I want you to remember something. Your shadow is proof, isn't proof that you're broken. Okay? Your shadow is proof that you're human. Every person who is listening right now has a part of themselves that they hide from people. Hell, I have a part of myself that I have from people, but I have learned that it's two ways. You can spend years hiding, from your shadow and keep running for years and you will be exhausted. Or like others, you turn around and you face it. You turn around and you face it head on. And that's where transformation comes in. Hello, somebody. Uh-oh. And that's where transformation comes. That's where transformation comes in. That's where transformation begins. Because not even it doesn't even happen when life gets easier, but when you become more honest about your fears, your mistakes, and your growth. Because the goal of awareness is good to have because awareness creates choices. Okay? And then, and if you like this show or you felt like that there was somebody that could use this show, please like, subscribe, and, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Um, I do appreciate all the love, especially you come right here from Russia to tap in. That is the most beautifulest things because we're all humans and we should all be able to connect, even if it's just through the internet world, social media, virtual, that we can all understand that we are humans. We are not perfect. We born to make mistakes, and we born to learn from our mistakes, because what? We are imperfect people. So don't execute yourself by thinking, my past has doomed my future. No, your past is exactly that. It is your past. It is not. It is who you are today. You know, don't run from your shadow. If there is a jealous part of you, heal. Because I used to be jealous. Before healing, but I got past that, and it was a lot of work because sometimes you don't even know you're jealous, right? And I don't mean very. Thank you, Nigel Marshall. Oh, I had to tune in, you guys. I'll talk about that too. That is my daughter. She tuned in right when I'm about to cast off, but she's a very wonderful. On my show, I talk about my children and my grandchildren a lot. Yes, I do, because they have all supported me during this journey that I am still journeying in. They're one of my biggest supporters. I have three beautiful daughters. I explained that in another show. Actually, my daughter that's on here now, she actually was on a show of mine. You guys will have to check that out. She did a very good job. Um, like I said, thank you guys all for support. It was nice to see you, Niger, for. Thank you for streaming in from Russia. Um, you guys have been a great honor to be here. So, if you like, please like, subscribe, follow, and I'll see you guys. What is it next? Oh, no, no, no. I'll see you guys Tuesday. So, with that being said, let's get out.